Hello, everybody. It's me again. It's Russell Mills, October 30th, 2018, Tuesday night. Hello, everybody. Hope everybody's blessed. Um, just found out today that James Whitey Bulger, Jr., was, James Joseph Whitey Bulger Jr. He just died today. He was 89 years old. And I was just looking up. I'm gonna just read a little bit. Obviously, you guys can look this up for yourself. So obviously, you don't have to, but just wanted to make a video. James Whitey Bulger. He was born September 3rd, 1929, and he died today, October 30th, 2018. He was 89 years old. He was an Irish American organized crime boss and gangster of the Winter Hill Gang in Boston, Mass. So I live in Massachusetts, so I've heard little stories here and there about him. Federal and prosecutors indicted Bulger for 19 murders based on grand jury testimony on Kevin Weeks and other former associates. This is Bulger was the brother of William Bulger, former president of the Massachusetts Senate. This is according to the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Bulger served as a confidential informant for the FBI beginning in 1975. A claim Bulger denied. This is, however, as a result, the FBI largely ignored his organization in exchange for information about the inner working of rival Italian-American Patricia crime family. Beginning in 1997, the media exposed criminal actions by federal, state, and local laws enforcement officials tied to Bulger. For the FBI, especially, this caused great embarrassment. So Bulger fled Boston on December 23rd, 1994, and went into hiding after being tipped off by a former FBI handler, John Conley, about a pending indictment on the Racketeer Influenced in Corrupt Organizations Act, RICO, for 16 years. He remained at large. For 12 of those years, Bulger was second on the FBI 10 most wanted fugitive list behind Osama bin Laden. This is Bulger was arrested outside his apartment in Santa Monica, California, on June 22nd, 2011, along with his longtime girlfriend Kathleen Gregg. Since Bulger was 81 years old at the time. Since soon after Bulger and Craig were extradited to Massachusetts and taken under heavy guard to the United States courthouse in Boston Harbor, which had to be partially closed for their arrival. Greg pled guilty to conspiracy to harbor fugitive identity fraud and conspiracy to commit identity fraud, and was sentenced to 8 years in prison in June of 2012. Bulger did not seek bail and remained in custody at the Plymouth County House of Correction in Plymouth, Massachusetts. So Bulger's trial began on June 12, 2013. He was tried on 32 counts of racketeering, money laundering, extortion, and weapon charges, including complicity in 19 murders. This is on August 12th. Bulger was found guilty on 31 counts, including both racketeering charges, and was found to have been involved in 11 murders. This is on November 14th. He was sentenced to 2 consecutive life sentences plus 5 years for his crime by the U.S. District Judge Denise Casper. Says Bulger became inmate number 02182-748, incarcerated for life at the United States Penitentiary, Coleman in Sumptonville, Florida. Bulger was in a wheelchair, was found dead in prison October 3rd, 2018 at the age of 89. According to the New York Times, he was killed by a fellow inmate at United States Penitentiary, Hazleton, when he was assaulted with a smuggled weapon, a lock inside a sock, and to death, and death with this, is according to investigation journalist Michelle McPhee, was ripped apart. So, and this is Bulger's father, James Joseph Bulger Sr. was from Harbor Grace, Newfoundland. After settling in Everett, Massachusetts, James Sr. married Jane Veronica Jean McCarthy, a first-generation Irish immigrant. Their first child, James Joseph Bulger Jr., was born in 1929. So the elder Bulger worked as a union worker and occasionally longshoreman. He lost his arm in an industrial accident, and the family was reduced to poverty. This is in May 1938. The Mary Ellen McCormick housing project was opened to the neighborhood of South Boston. The Bulger family moved in, and the children grew up there. The other Bulger children, William Michael and Joseph P. Bulger, excelled at school. James Bulger Jr. became drawn into the streets. This is early in his criminal career. Local police gave Bulger the nickname Whitey because of his blonde hair. This is Bulger. Bulger hated the name. He preferred to be called Jim or Jimmy, or even Boots. The last nickname came from his habits of wearing cowboy boots and fondness for hiding a switchblade in those boots. However, the nickname Whitey stuck. This is early criminal career. Bulger developed a reputation as a thief and street fighter, fiercely loyal to South Boston. This led to his meeting more experienced criminals and finding more lucrative opportunities. In 1943, a 14-year-old Bulger was arrested and charged with larceny. By then, he had joined the street gang known as the Shamrocks. He would eventually be arrested for assault, forgery, and armed robbery. He was sentenced to juvenile reformity for those crimes. Shortly after release in April 1948, Bulger joined the U.S. Air Force, but he was not reformed. He spent time in the military prison for several assaults. He was later arrested by the Air Force police in 1950 for going absent without leave. Nevertheless, he received an honorable discharge in 1952. 1952, returned to Massachusetts. In 1956, Bulger served at his first term in federal prison when he sentenced to time in Atlanta Penitentiary for armed robbery and truck hijacking. He was later told mobster Kevin Weeks that while they was involved in the MK Ultra program, the goal which was to research mind control drugs for the CIA, for 18 months, Bulger and 18 other inmates, all of whom had volunteered in return for reduced sentences, was given LSD and other drugs. Bulger later complained that they'd been recruited by deception and were told they were being helped to find a cure for schizophrenia. He described his experience as nightmarish and said it took him to the depths of insanity. Bulger was transferred from Atlanta to Alcatraz Federal Penitentiary. He became a close friend of inmate Clarence Carnes, a.k.a. the Choctaw Kid. In November 1962, he was transferred to Leavenworth Federal Penitentiary. In the 1963 Lewisburg Federal Penitentiary, Bulger's third petition for parole in 1965 was granted. He had served 9 years in prison. He would be arrested again for 40. He would not be arrested again for 46 years. Just after his release, Bulger worked as a janitor and construction worker before becoming a bookmaker and loan shark under Donald killing the leader of the dominant mob. The killings for over 20 years in South Boston. The killings, were led by three brothers, Donnie, Kenny, and Eddie, and with Billy O'Sullivan and Jack Curran. Their base was the Transit Cafe in South Boston, which later became Whitey's Triple O. Since in 1971, Keelan's younger brother, Kenny, allegedly shot Mickey Dwyer, a member of the rival Mullen gang in the Army, and bit off part of his nose during the brawl at the Transit Cafe. This is a gang war resulted leading to a string of killings throughout Boston and surrounding suburbs. The Keelings quickly found themselves outgunned and outmaneuvered by the younger Mullins. It was during the Keelings-Mullen War that Bulger set out to commit what Kevin Weeks described as the first murder of Paul McGonagall. So, like I said, this man, he was a bad man. He was a very bad man, and he did a lot of shit, in his life, and that's crazy. And what's this? I just wanted to see something. I don't want to read all this. I'm going to say something. Massachusetts State Lawyer. This was I'm just scrolling down to hold. This is in the summer of 1991. Bulger and Kevin Weeks, along with associate Patrick and Michael Linsky, came into possession of winning Massachusetts lottery tickets, which had been bought at a store he owned. The four men shared the prize of around $14 million. Bulger was widely thought to have obtained the share of his jackpot illegally. And it says, in April of 1994, a joint task force to the Drug Enforcement Administration, DEA, the Massachusetts State Police, and Boston Police Department launched a probe of Bulger's gambling operations. The FBI, by this time considered compressed, was not informed. After a number of bookmakers agreed to testify to having paid protection money, Bulger, a federal case was built against him under the RICO Act, according to Kevin Weeks. And it says, after fleeing to Boston, Bulger and Stanley spent 4 days over Christmas at Selden, New York. Later, before spending New Year's Day in a hotel New Orleans French Quarters. This is on January 5th, 1995. Bulger prepared to return to Boston, believing it had been a false alarm. That night, however, this guy named Stephen Fleming was arrested outside a Boston restaurant by the DEA. Boston police detectives Michael Fleming, Stephen's brother, informed Weeks of the arrest. Weeks immediately passed the information on to Bulger, who altered his plans. This guy, man, was all over the place. And what's this say? After 16 years and 12 years of the FBI 10 most wanted fugitive list, Bulger was arrested in Santa Monica, California on June 22nd, 2011. He was 81 years old at the time of his arrest. He was captured as a result of the work of Bulger Fugitive Task Force, which consisted of FBI agents and a deputy U.S. Marshal. According to the retired FBI agent Scott Bakken, here you have somebody who was far more sophisticated than some 18-year-olds who killed someone in a drive-by. To be successful fugitives, you have to cut all contacts from all previous life. He had the means and kept a low profile. This is a reward of $2 million had been offered offered for information leading to his capture. The amount was second only to Osama bin Laden's capture reward on the FBI 10 most wanted fugitive list. This is Bulger was featured on a television show America's Most Wanted 16 times, first in 1995 and finally on October 2nd, 2010. According to authorities, the arrest were a direct result of media campaigning launched by the FBI in 14 markets across the country where Bulger and Greg reported had ties. The campaign focused on Craig, describing her as an animal lover who frequently went to the beauty salons. It's crazy. Says authorities received a tip from a woman in Iceland that Bulger was living in an apartment near a beach in Santa Monica. The Boston Globe identified the tipster as some woman named Annie B. I don't know, a former model, actress, and Miss Iceland in 1974 who lived in Bulger's neighborhood. A day later, using a rush agent and other task force members lured Mr. Bulger out of the apartment, arrested him without incident, then went in the house and arrested Craig. Bulger was charged with murder, conspiracy, and committed murder, extortion. Wow. Narcotics distribution and money laundering. Says agents found more than $800,000 in cash, 30 firearms, fake IDs at the apartment. Whew, man, that's crazy. But so Bulger's companion during his years was a fugitive. His longtime girlfriend, Catherine Craig. She was born April 3rd, 1951. She's age 67. He was almost 22 years younger than Bulger. Grew up in Boston, had an identical twin sister, Margaret, and a younger brother, David. Their father was a machinist from Scotland, and their mother was from Canada, as Bulger's father. Says at age 20, Greg married Robert Bobby McGonnell in South Boston, a Boston firefighter. He was from a family that led the Mullen gang and was injured during his mob gunfight in 1969. This is crazy, but I'm not going to read all this. You guys can look all that up, but I'm going to say this man's going to burn in hell for the rest of his life, and unless he didn't repent to God. And this is what I say to people in this world. We have to do the right thing. You either want to have an easy life or you want to have a hard life. It's up to you what choice you want to do in this life. At the end of the day, you could have a hard life, and be on the run like this man was and died in prison and probably got killed in prison at age 89. Whatever, man. I want to have an easy life. I want to live my life the right way, take care of myself, my family, my situation. That's it. But that's all I'm going to say, everybody. I want to keep going. But I'm going to say this. I do have a YouTube channel. Type in Russell Mills, Russell. My last name is Mills, Mills. May 22nd, 2017. My first video was called Why Black People Settle for Less. I'm trying to have all my videos grow. I don't expect all you guys to agree with my rhetoric, words, whatever you want to call it. But at the end of the day, I'm trying to push myself out there, put myself out there as a person that, wants to, speak for issues that I see, what's going on. But everybody take care. God bless. Bye.